Hey guys, Greg here. Just wanted to quickly record a winning characteristics walkthrough video. Today I'm going to be covering LCID or lucid group. And this chart has shown a lot of interesting characteristics that I think make it a great study. So, just let's hop right into it really off the bat here. First and foremost, if we zoom in on this relative strength line, we can see it as periods of huge outperformance in the past and its history. Obviously, that's good to note because we can see the stock is a winner and knows how to outperform versus the market. So we're looking at something that can generate us returns and ones that are sizable compared to the S&P. So more recently, if we zoom back out here, we can see that there was RS from the lows. And so that's telling us that, yeah, this is a major gap down, but there's some institution or institutions in the name trying to absorb the supply that's coming to market, and it's actually outperforming the market during this period. So that's interesting and a little nuance that, we have RS from the lows, so there's some sort of bid there. Additionally, this slope of the line itself is impressive. Again, it just speaks to the outperformance. And then when we have our little consolidation from the low, and then ultimately the highest volume ever characteristic, which we'll talk about in a second, we can see that this RS line again just shot straight up. So there's large outperformance going on in the stock. Again, we can look at this line and see, all right, we're in the right ballpark. Now, if we look towards the chart itself, we can see a major gap down, kind of an eyesore on this left side, after it ran up from 10 to 64. So this kind of looks climactic, obviously, some major gap down, and then it lives below the key moving averages. But something that's interesting and what caught my eye is that this name has had the highest volume ever characteristic, even after this large gap down and climactic run. So something's changed again. I haven't looked into the news source of why this happened. I heard some things like a short squeeze or something. It doesn't really matter. What matters from here on out is how the stock acts and is it showing signs of accumulation. So again, this characteristic itself, the highest volume ever, is something that immediately puts a stock right to my watch list, especially when it's up 31% on the day with this type of volume. So personally, I'm looking at this HVC that it creates, which stands for high volume close. We're looking at 35.48 as the HVC. This next day, the low, 35.43. Today, low, 35.73. So we're holding this HVC on a closing basis, and we're also respecting the whole number of 35. So this information in it of itself is just telling us that there's institutional accumulation occurring, especially when it's holding a round number and this quite obvious HVC. Additionally, we have some follow-on follow-through volume that just adds to our conviction and shows us that retail isn't buying 377 million shares, and it's not buying the follow-on follow-through volume as well. So again, demand is high, and then if we look back a little bit to the left, this gap down actually kind of marks the low of this kind of little cycle, which is something I'm studying right now, and I know Ray from Traderline is also doing that with a couple other of the TL private members. They have a high volume anchor close from within the base or just this gap down study. But what we're seeing here is the second highest volume ever, to date on 149.61. This was the highest one since that, and it marks the low. So then we're starting to see some character change from this basing period. You get a gap down and die, but like we did over here, but this time we got a gap down and then rally up. So even though this obviously looked poor, there's someone in this. And so once we kind of get this semi-wedge pop, it's not really that tight, but we move back through the moving averages, we come back, we actually probably get a wedge drop here, but then it kind of turns into an EMA crossback. So I would think that the naming's not as important, but we do see some institutional footprints here with the key moving average respect of this 50-day or 10-week right on this $22 hole mark. Again, we see a pop through the moving averages, tightness, and then explosion all the way through. And the cool thing, a little nuance actually about this highest volume ever day is that it touches this 2788 high. The low was 2808. So you get pretty close to, you know, a gap and go over this line, but impressive how prior resistance turns into support. So that pretty much covers everything in terms of, you know, how the accumulation on the right side showed character change, how we saw some further character change with key moving average respect, and then an ultimate blast off. And so what I'm looking for from here, personally, I want one more test of this HVC. Today's move was a little bit, you know, the bar was pretty wide, so I want to see some controlled action back down to 35.48, 35 flat, you know, whatever the case may be, and then try to get long and see if we move up and out from there, kind of do like a little U type action. But yes, if we want to move on, we can move to the fundamentals, and I'll pull up MarketSmith really quickly, and we can see that the fundamental numbers are obviously poor. There's nothing, and the future estimates are nothing. So basically what we're looking at here is just a pure fundamental play, or a pure technical play. And, you know, we can see Tesla's in here, XPET and Ford are in there as well. You know, then we look at the group, 10 over 197 auto manufacturers, and we get designs and manufacturers, all electric luxury vehicles. So we know what the theme's going to be out of this stock. You know, when Tesla goes, this will probably go. But, you know, we can, knowing this, we can kind of position size for a performance booster, so it's not going to be something that's massive, but it's just one, if it works, that it's going to run up the numbers for us, which is something that I'm trying to learn from Ray from Traderline as well. So yeah, moving on, we can see that there's actually one fund in here, which is impressive, and then we also get an increase from March of 21 in terms of total fund ownership. And I imagine once these numbers get updated that we will see, you know, some large increases as well in funds, because this volume is not just this guy or this 60, you know, there's got to be more. But yeah, so finally, if we want to look at the IBT/IOF data, we can look first at the IBT markets, which is the block trade markets, and this data is provided by TL Money Flow, but we see blocks on 35 all the way to 37.5. So we're looking for some controlled action in this range, especially as it comes after the gap up here. And obviously this will just build to our convictions, but within the basing, we have, you know, some pretty sizable block orders at 15% in here. So again, we're seeing this institutional transaction or these transactions take place throughout the base, like we've noted in our analysis prior. If we want to look at options, we can see again some large activity, only representing really 3% of average volume though, within the base, but bullish premium, that's a pretty liquid stock right there at 75 million on the bullish side and 17 million on the bearish side. So again, these final three for me, so the fundamentals, the group, and the IBT IOF markets will just add to my conviction. What's really building my conviction and saying, hey, you know, Greg, you need to be looking at this stock, is the price and volume action in and of itself. So if I can manage risk in a name like this, even if it has no fundamentals, we can see that accumulation is taking place on the chart, and I can go in and do further research once this is on my watch list and say, all right, well, I like the group, I like the IBC IOF markets, you know, I can size this X percentage of my account based on these edges. So that's kind of my thought process when I look at LCID. I hope this has been instructive, educational for you guys as much as it is for me. These really help me kind of formulate my ideas and really show me how to articulate, you know, what I'm seeing in a chart. So if you enjoyed, please leave a like, comment if you have any constructive feedback or any future requests for charts I should mark up and talk about. All right, thanks guys. Have a good one.